by Mark SinyorTues, November 21, 2017. On October 31, Netflix announced it was suspending production of its hit series House of Cards, effective immediately after UAL assault allegations were made against Kevin Spacey. It subsequently severed all ties with the actor. While the alleged assaults have not been proven, Netflix's choice is an important and principled one that reinforces a growing consensus in Hollywood demanding zero tolerance for such behavior. We can all agree that this represents significant progress. But what about the other show whose filming Netflix recently halted? Earlier in October, Northern California wildfires forced the company to shut down production of the second season of 13 Reasons Why. Unlike House of Cards, whose future without Spacey is uncertain, the situation with 13 Reasons Why is just a minor hiccup on the way to its release early next year. This raises the question, why does Netflix choose to take a stand against UAL misconduct while simultaneously renewing a series that targets vulnerable viewers with harmful messages about suicide? Research has repeatedly confirmed that certain kinds of suicide depictions are followed by copycat deaths. A 2014 study showed that U.S. teen suicide clusters may be triggered by newspaper reports, particularly front-page stories with detailed descriptions of the person who died or of suicide methods. The first season of 13 Reasons Why violated almost every scientific recommendation for presenting suicide in the media. The death of main character Hannah Baker was glorified, romanticized, presented as inevitable, helped her achieve positive goals, and was depicted in graphic detail. Her suicide was, according to the show's very premise, everyone else's fault, with no emphasis on her own accountability to manage her distress. Perhaps most egregiously, Hannah did not appear to suffer from a mental disorder, although we know that treatable mental disorders are a major driving force in almost all suicide deaths. No television show can claim to depict suicide realistically without emphasis of this point. Finally, the series failed to highlight the resilience of any of the other characters in the face of their own stressful life events. To the contrary, it ended on a cliffhanger suggesting the series may go in the direction of a suicide cluster. As one of a small group of researchers worldwide who studies suicide contagion, I can tell you that we are all very worried. Multiple friends who work in emergency departments here in Toronto sent me messages last spring noting an increase in visits from youth who had self-harmed or attempted suicide. Because of these concerns, I was asked to speak to youth at a local middle school this past summer. Instead of focusing on 13 Reasons Why, I talked about the idea that distress is normal and emphasized healthy coping. At the end of my remarks, a girl raised her hand and said, "We all know you're here because of the show. We've all had it. Should we be cutting or not?" I was taken aback by the question, but gave her my best response. I tried to explain that the show perpetuates dangerous myths, that there is no reason that anyone needs to die from suicide, and that, in the rare instances when youth do, it is always a tragic, missed opportunity. I urged the audience to tell someone if their coping skills were not working. But I left feeling shaken. One of the frustrating things about population research is that it takes time for all the data to come in. It will be months before we understand how the first season of 13 Reasons Why affected emergency visits and deaths. But do we really need to wait that long for action? A study of Google searches published this summer showed a 26% increase in searches for how to commit suicide across the U.S. Increases were also seen for searches of suicide prevention. One of the things that makes 13 Reasons Why so unique is that its availability on Netflix allowed it to reach a worldwide audience. Yes, we will almost certainly find areas of the world where it had no effect. But, unless decades of research are mistaken, we will also find areas where more youth died because of the show. Why do we have to wait for that data to do something? Netflix hasn't waited for Spacey to be convicted of wrongdoing to take action. It has a moral obligation to do the same for 13 Reasons Why. Dr. Mark SinyorTues is a psychiatrist at Sunnybrook Hospital and assistant professor of psychiatry at the University of Toronto. He is the lead author on the Canadian Psychiatric Association's forthcoming media recommendations for reporting on suicide.